because of time. Then I did the audiobook because I was driving a lot. Yeah. So the audiobook is like fine. Yes. So I went through the entire book.
Oh, wow. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you go through the audio book and the ebook I sent, or
Just the audiobook? I started with the ebook, but my progress was a bit slow on that one.
yeah?
Because when I start to, I either read, like, especially when it comes to in the morning, I focus on God. Then in the evening, I focus on other books. So then that's when I slow down and then I fall asleep. So I'll be reading like a chapter or two. Then I decided, okay, let me get this on Audible. So as I drive, as I do my activities, then I can listen to it. So I listened to it, I think, starting yesterday. Yeah, yesterday, and then I finished it this morning. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's not a very, I mean, it's like what, 3-4 hours, I think, listening time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Blondie, did you read? Did you manage to read it?
Oh, yes,
or...
I did. It was a very short period given to do it, so I had to freeze myself. I normally have, I did a bit of freezing and freeing up of time, and because my daughter helps me to account for everything, food that I eat, the books that I read, so she was on my case, and I did manage to finish it. I finished it last night.
Okay.
And it was just I had to
How did you go about it? Hard copy or the audio?
I did the hard copy, but I allocated time for reading specific chapters. I mean, I woke up at 12 o'clock midnight, and I started reading until 3:30, and then I went back to bed. So I managed to go through, because it's such an easy read. Like the lady was saying now, I'm such a Seth fan. So when I saw this thing, I was like, I'm diving, because I know it's going to be something that that appeals to me, because I've always been a fan. I listen to his blogs. I read the blogs rather, and then I listen to the podcasts. I subscribe to his podcast, so I know exactly what to expect. I had an idea of what to expect, and it's only good things. And that is why it was easy for me to get through to until the last page, because I love the guy. I mean, he's a marketing genius. So who doesn't want to read anything from Seth?
So I have Seth fanatics here. Quite interesting. Okay, so let's dive into it. So what I'll do, because this was my recommendation, because I think it kept on coming. Last year's reading, it kept on coming. The whole concept of tribes, that concept kept on coming in each of, or most of our discussion. I would read Gary V's book, and then in there will be some form of a tribe or group of people. So that I decided maybe let's rather start with it this year. I actually recommended this book late last year in December when we finished reading Psychology of Money. And then I said, we're gonna read Seth and Jabu. And it's very thin books, so I didn't want to keep you away from your holidays. So I thought maybe let's rather read these two books. So yeah, I'm also a fan of Seth for quite some time. I think I've read all his books. There's quite a number. Well, not all, because some of them are not available here, but I think I've read about 8 or so of his books. So he writes a lot. He blogs a lot. I try and keep up with his blog, but he, sometimes I fall behind. So yeah, I mean, Tribes, it's quite an oldish book. It came out, I bought it 2014, but it came out quite a while back. 2008, actually, that's when it came out. So the concept it's been there for quite some time. So what I'll do is I'll just sort of share my thoughts, my lessons that I've picked up from the book. And I thought maybe let's play his TED Talk on tribes, and then we'll then discuss. We'll then share the platform and then we'll sort of hear what your views are. So I read the book twice. I read it when I bought the book. I read it sometime last year, and then I listened to the audio version of it last week, and I finished it last night as well. So what Seth is basically, I mean, saying with the book, and if you have read his other books, they overlap. You know, there's some of the principles that overlap to Tribes or to Purple Cow. You know, but what he's basically saying, and I think for me, it sort of was quite interesting when he spoke about, because one of the things that I actually read recently, somebody was asking a question about why is it that Tesla does not market their products, but you know, most of their products are sold out. You know, and they spend zero on marketing budget, and you know, and they rely on Elon Musk to sort of be the marketer of Tesla. But even with Musk, he doesn't directly say buy the car or whatever. He just sells this idea, and people or his true fans, you know, would order the product. Pretty much like Apple, for instance. Apple, they'll have a product launch. Steve Jobs will talk about, we are launching this product. This is what the product does. And the following day, you know, the fans will be queuing up outside Apple stores waiting to buy. You know, so you have these companies that don't market their products, but most of the time their products are sold out. So there's about 7 lessons that I took out from the book. I mean, it's a very thin book, but it's quite interesting that, you know, there were quite a number of lessons that I picked up. But I think lesson number 1, I'm just going to go through the lessons, and then from there, what we can then do is watch the TED Talk, and then let's discuss. Because I think the TED Talk, his TED Talk on Tribes, sort of wraps up the book quite nicely. So 7 lessons, and lesson number 1 from the book is that tribes are about connection, and I think that's the most important thing. Tribes is basically, a tribe is a group of people, you know, people who are connected to each other. I think that's the first thing, and I think that's quite interesting because often when we talk about a group of people, it's always one-dimensional. It's the leader, you know, it's sort of like the whole thing is top down, down up, top down top. So the leader communicating with the group and the group communicating with the leader. But what Seth is saying is one of the requirements of a tribe is sideway communication. The members need to be able to communicate with one another. It shouldn't just be top-down communication. So lesson number 1 that I've picked up again is tribes are about connection. Connection between the leader and the followers, connection between the followers themselves, and also connection between the tribe and the idea. So there has to be an idea, and everybody's connected to the idea, everybody's connected to each other, and everybody's connected to the leader. So I found that to be quite interesting. I mean, if you look at religious groups, for instance, they share the same fundamental belief of God, all of them, but also they have a bishop, a pastor, whoever that they're connected to, but also they're able to connect with one another through cell groups or whatever. They're able to communicate and connect with one another. So communication is not just up, down, it's also sideways, but there's also one common idea that they share. So lesson number that I picked up is pretty much that there's a connection. And I think that's quite important. Often with groups, you know, when we talk about cults, and I think the difference here with cults is cults are always connected to the leader, but the members are not necessarily connected to one another. So that's lesson number 1. So lesson number 2 of 7 is, you know, tribes are a new way of spreading ideas. And I think what Seth is saying is here, I think he's basically saying that the old way of marketing has always been the mass marketing, advertising, push your idea, push your product to the market. And all that the market does is listen, and decide if they want to buy or not. There's very little bottom-up communication. And I think what Seth is saying is people are tired of always ideas being pushed down on them. They want to also be able to communicate, share their thoughts also. So the old way, what Seth is saying is that the old way of marketing is top-down, mass marketing, make noise, as much noise as you can, sell average product to average people, and just call everyone. And the thing with that is, the danger with that is not everyone wants to be called. Not everyone wants to hear your voice. So tribes, the new way of marketing is through a tribe. And what Seth is saying is you lead, you connect a group of fanatics to one another. So you find people who are passionate about an idea, and then you connect with them, you connect them to each other, and then you lead them. And those connections will create growth. And as that growth happens, it will lead to a movement. So what Seth is saying is, don't try and mass market and push, advertise. Find a niche of people, connect them, and then connect them to your idea, and then lead them. And if you manage to get that right, you'll then be able to have a movement. Lesson number 3 of 7, and I found this quite, I was learning this terminology, heretics. So it talks about tribes follow heretics. And heretics are people who challenge the status quo, right? So tribes are looking for people who are going to challenge the status quo. So often you'll find people who don't have the courage to stand up and challenge the status quo. But if there's someone who has the courage and the guts to stand up and challenge the status quo, you'll find that the tribe will rally around that person and will support that person. So people want heretics to do things that, push ideas that they're very, very, very passionate about. And it talks about Steve Jobs, that Steve Jobs did not create tech junkies. He found them there, and he just managed to group them together and says, I have this idea, follow me. And I kept on thinking, for instance, Nelson Mandela or Tambo, they didn't create anti-apartheid people. The anti-apartheid people were there. What they managed to do is to organize these people to say, look, I'm willing to stand up and be in the Rivonia trial and be the accused number 1, for instance. I'm willing to stand up and I'm willing to be accused number 1. And those others were rallied around him. So you have a Jobs who's saying, I'm willing to challenge the status quo. And he has done that with music. He has done it with quite a lot of things. He had the guts to call Sony to a meeting and say, we're going to change how people consume music. And he had pushbacks, and people were like, no, you can't do that. But he championed on. And the people, his fans, his true fans, rallied around him. So that's a heretic, as somebody who's willing to challenge the status quo. You can think of Greta Thunberg with the climate change activism. You can think of Malala, So these are the people who had the courage to stand up and say, we're going to challenge the status quo. And Gary V, I know Tebogo is Gary V's big fan. Gary V also has this following with his wine blog and a movement. And I think because he comes from that family where they sell wines. So lesson number 3 from tribes is tribes are looking for someone to follow. They're looking for someone who is a heretic. They're looking for someone who's willing to challenge the status quo. And then lesson number 4 of 7, tribes are, I found this quite interesting. Tribes are assembled and not created. So people don't create tribes. They just assemble like-minded people, you know, and they, and like I said, Mandela didn't create anti-apartheid activists. He found them there. There were people who were disgruntled, people who did not like the system, but did not have the courage to challenge the system. And Mandela said, look, I'm willing to stand up. I'm willing to take the bulls by the horn. Follow me. So and that's the thing. And what Seth is saying is tribes, you don't create tribes. You find them, they are disjointed, they're making murmuring noises in underground, but they're looking for someone who will say, who will be able to articulate their vision and take and champion their cause. So tribes are assembled and not created. Lesson number 5 of 7. I think this is very important. A tribe is not for everyone. And I think I found that to be quite interesting that, you know, everyone does not necessarily have to be part of the tribe. And that's okay. You know, if people say, I don't get it, I don't like this thing, and that's okay. There are people who don't like Seth Godin. There are people who don't get it. There are people who's like, that guy. And Seth is not losing sleep. And he likes saying this quite a lot, that if, you know, if you put something in front of people and people reject it, it's nothing personal. You just pick it up and say, sorry, it's not for you, you know, because he believes that not everyone will believe in what you do, but he also believes that not everyone will reject what you do. So your job is to find your true fans. And he keeps on quoting Kevin Kelly. Kevin Kelly is also one author, thought leader who writes in the creative space. And Kevin Kelly, in one of his books, he talks about all you need is 1,000 true fans. That's all you need. You don't want millions and millions of people. All you need is 1,000 true fans. You know, the fanatics. That's all you need, and connect those to one another, and those will be your champions. And if the movement, if the tribe grows into a movement, great. If it doesn't, your job is to strengthen and double down on the current existing tribe members. Don't try and leave this 10 and go and look for the others. Just do a good job with the ones that you have, the 1,000 that you have, and if you do a very good job, they'll bring others. So, and that's what he's saying, that not everyone is meant to be part of the tribe. So that's lesson number 5. Lesson number 6, as tribe grows, they become movements, and I found that to be quite interesting. So as Greta Thunberg is doing his climate change movement, a tribe, it grows into a movement, it grows into a global movement, and they put pressure on the status quo. They challenge the status quo, governments and the private sector, to take fossil fuels seriously. You know, whether you agree with Greta or not, I'm not so sure if Blondie agrees with Greta or not. But anyway, but I think what the message is, as tribes grow, they become movements. And how do you create a movement? And I think Seth likes this quite a lot. To tell a story, come up with a story that people, can resonate with. I mean, you somehow have to be a storyteller, a good storyteller. So tell a story about the status quo and how it needs to change, and what your vision of the future is. So tell a story, connect the tribe to each other, and to you as a leader, and lead a movement, provide direction, provide purpose, why you should do this, why this matters, and then obviously make change to happen. And what basically this means is, what you're doing is you are saying, together we can do far more than each one of us individually. So, and that's what a movement is all about. So Shama, she wants to create a movement in Botswana on the black hair, black women's hair, or black women's afro or whatever movement in Botswana, and she champions that, and there's a purpose, there's a goal, she shares a story, and she connects people who are like-minded to one another, and then she leads them. This is where we should go, this is what we should champion, here's the purpose, and let's go with that. And then the last lesson that I took out from tribes is there's 7 C's of leadership, like the elements of leadership. If you decide, yes, I'm ready, I want to lead a tribe, what are the things that I need to do, right? And what Seth says is the 7 C's. The first one is challenge the status quo, back to the heretics. What are you challenging that goes against conventional wisdom? I mean, Elon Musk challenged the whole, with his electric cars and SpaceX. He's challenging the status quo to say, why can't we go back to space? I mean, we took a man to the moon, and then what happened afterwards, And they retired the space mission. And he challenged NASA and the US government to say, no, we have to go back. And that's the guts that he had. So he challenged the status quo. And then the second C is culture. Build a culture around the goal. Find a way of how you are able to drive the message top of mind, on most of your tribe. And then C, curiosity. Curiosity about the world, curiosity about your cause that you're championing. Musk would know quite a lot about space, why we choose to go to Mars and not the other planets, because Mars is the closest resemblance to Earth. It's not too cold, it's not too hot, it's not too far from, it's the closer to Earth. So Mars is a bit of a replica to Earth, so let's go there. So he studied this thing, he read whatever research or whatever book there is to read. So he was curious about the topic. He was not just fanatical about the topic. And he says, let's go and start making noise. So he was very curious about it. And of course, there's charisma. You want to be charismatic. What I like about what Seth said here is that, it's not that you have to be a charismatic to be a leader. Leaders become charismatic. So as you champion this cause, people like what you're doing, people admire what you do, and automatically they laugh at whatever joke you say, even if it's not funny, because you represent, sometimes I look at some of these leaders and they crack some jokes. I'm like, but that's actually not a very funny joke, but people are laughing around them, right? People find them charismatic. And you actually realize it's power that makes them charismatic. They were not charismatic to get power. It's actually the other way around. And then the 5th C is communication. Communication, connection is very, very important. Effective communication of the vision of the future. So you constantly need to be communicating to the tribe, but you also want the communication to happen amongst the tribe members. And then 6C is commitment. Commit to the cause. Commit to the cause. And Mandela is a classic example of that. If needs be, this is a cause that I'm willing to die for. And some people have died for their cause. Martin Luther King has died for his cause. So commit to the cause. And then the last C is connection. What makes tribes different from other groups is connection. The fact that we are able to connect to one another, and not just the leader, but also amongst ourselves. So yeah, that's the book, very thin. I'll share my thoughts and the rating after. So lesson number 1, tribes are about connection, shared goal and communication, very important. Number 2, new ways of spreading ideas. Old ways, mass marketing, new ways through a group of people, through a tribe of people. Lesson number 3, you need to be a heretic. So tribes follow heretics. Tribes follow people who challenge the status quo. Lesson number 4, tribes are assembled and not created. So you're not going to create people who are going to believe in the hair movement, Black women or Afro movement. You are going to look for people who pretty much have the same type of interest that you have, and then you just lead them. And then lesson number 5, tribes are not for everyone. Don't try and get everyone, let the tribe grow organically, attract like-minded people, and they'll attract others as well, or they might convert others as well. Lesson number 6, as tribes grow, they become movements. And then lesson number 7, the 7 C's of leadership: challenge the status quo, create a culture, build a culture, be curious about the movement. As you are doing that, you'll become charismatic, and communicate effectively, commit to the cause, and connect the tribe. So before we jump in with our thoughts, I thought maybe let's play Seth's TED Talk, and then Blondie, you are next after. Right.
Awesome.
All right. Can you see the, anyone, if anyone can just give me an indication that they can see the screen?
I can.
Okay,
Not the
great.
screen, but it's a bit darkish.
Yeah.
Sorry, link.
Okay.
Yeah. There we go.
So sometimes I get invited to give weird talks. I got invited to speak to the people who dress up in big stuffed animal costumes to perform at sporting events. Unfortunately, I couldn't go, but it got me thinking about the fact that these guys, at least most of them, know what it is that they do for a living. What they do is they dress up as stuffed animals and entertain people at sporting events. Shortly after that, I got invited to speak at the convention of the people who make balloon animals. And again, I couldn't go, but it's a fascinating group. They make balloon animals. There's a big schism between the ones who make gospel animals and porn animals. But they do a lot of really cool stuff with balloons. Sometimes they get in trouble, but not often. And the other thing about these guys is they also know what they do for a living. They make balloon animals. But what do we do for a living? What exactly do the people watching this do every day? And I want to argue that what we do is we try to change everything. That we try to find a piece of the status quo, something that bothers us, something that needs to be improved, something that's itching to be changed, and we change it. And we try to make big, permanent, important change. But we don't think about it that way, and we haven't spent a lot of time talking about what that process is like. And I've been studying it for a couple of years, and I want to share a couple of stories with you today. First, about a guy named Nathan Winograd. Nathan was the #2 person at the San Francisco SPCA. And what you may not know about the history of the SPCA is it was founded to kill dogs and cats. Cities gave them a charter to get rid of the stray animals on the street and destroy them. And in a typical year, 4 million dogs and cats were killed, most of them within 24 hours of being scooped off the street. Nathan and his boss saw this, and they could not tolerate it. So they set out to make San Francisco a no-kill city. Create an entire city where every dog and cat, unless it was ill or dangerous, would be adopted, not killed. And everyone said it was impossible. Nathan and his boss went to the city council to get a change in the ordinance, and people from SPCAs and humane shelters from around the country flew to San Francisco to testify against them, to say it would hurt the movement and it was inhumane. They persisted, and Nathan went directly to the community. He connected with people who cared about this, non-professionals, people with passion. And within just a couple years, San Francisco became the first no-kill city, running no deficit, completely supported by the community. Nathan left and went to Tompkins County, New York, a place as different from San Francisco as you can be and still be in the United States. And he did it again. He went from being a glorified dog catcher to completely transforming the community. And then he went to North Carolina and did it again. And he went to Reno and he did it again. And when I think about what Nathan did, and when I think about people here do, I think about ideas. And I think about the idea that creating an idea, spreading an idea has a lot behind it. And I don't know if you've ever been to a Jewish wedding, but what they do is they take a light bulb and they smash it. Now, there's a bunch of reasons for that and stories about it, but one reason is because it indicates a change from before to after. It's a moment in time. And I want to argue that we are living through and are right at the key moment of a change in the way ideas are created and spread and implemented. We started with the factory idea, that you could change the whole world if you had an efficient factory that could churn out change. We then went to the TV idea that said, if you had a big enough mouthpiece, if you could get on TV enough times, if you could buy enough ads, you could win. And now we're in this new model of leadership, where the way we make change is not by using money or power to lever a system, but by leading. So let me talk about the 3 cycles. The first one is the factory cycle. Henry Ford comes up with a really cool idea. It enables him to hire men who used to get paid 50 cents a day and pay him $5 a day because he's got an efficient enough factory. Well, with that sort of advantage, you can churn out a lot of cars. You can make a lot of change. You can get roads built. You can change the fabric of an entire country. That the essence of what you're doing is you need ever cheaper labor and ever faster machines. And the problem we've run into is we're running out of both, ever cheaper labor and ever faster machines. So we shift gears for a minute and say, I know, television, advertising, push, take a good idea and push it on the world. I have a better mousetrap, and if I can just get enough money to tell enough people, I'll sell enough. And you can build an entire industry on that. If necessary, you can put babies in your ads. If necessary, you can use babies to sell other stuff. And if babies don't work, you can use doctors. But be careful, because you don't want to get an unfortunate juxtaposition when you're talking about one thing instead of the other. This model requires you to act like the king, like the person in the front of the room throwing things to the peons in the back. That you are in charge and you're going to tell people what to do next. That, the quick little diagram of it is you're up here and you are pushing it out to the world. This method, mass marketing, requires average ideas, because you're going to the masses, and plenty of ads. What we've done as spammers is tried to hypnotize everyone into buying our idea, hypnotize everyone into donating to our cause, hypnotize everyone into voting for our candidate. And unfortunately, it doesn't work so well anymore either. But there's good news around the corner, really good news. I call it the idea of tribes. What tribes are is a very simple concept that goes back 50,000 years. It's about leading and connecting people and ideas. And it's something that people have wanted forever. Lots of people are used to having a spiritual tribe or a church tribe, having a work tribe, having a community tribe. But now, thanks to the internet, thanks to the explosion of mass media, thanks to a lot of other things that are bubbling through our society around the world, tribes are everywhere. The internet was supposed to homogenize everyone by connecting us all. Instead, what it's allowed is silos of interest. So you got the red hat ladies over here, you got the red hat triathletes over there. You got the organized armies over here, you got the disorganized rebels over here. You got people in white hats making food and people in white hats sailing boats. The point is that you can find Ukrainian folk dancers and connect with them because you want to be connected. That people on the fringes can find each other, connect, and go somewhere. Every town that has a volunteer fire department understands this way of thinking. Now, it turns out this is a legitimate non-Photoshopped photo. People I know who are firemen told me that this is not uncommon and that what firemen do to train sometimes is they take a house that's going to be torn down and they burn it down instead and practice putting it out, but they always stop and take a picture. So, the pirate tribe is a fascinating one. They got their own flag, they got the eye patches. You can tell when you're running into someone in a tribe. And it turns out that it's tribes, not money, not factories, that can change our world, that can change politics, that can align large numbers of people. Not because you force them to do something against their will, but because they wanted to connect. That what we do for a living now, all of us, I think, is find something worth changing and then assemble tribes that spread the idea and it becomes something far bigger than ourselves. It becomes a movement. So when Al Gore set out to change the world again, He didn't do it by himself, and he didn't do it by buying a lot of ads. He did it by creating a movement. Thousands of people around the country who could give his presentation for him because he can't be in 100 or 200 or 500 cities in each night. You don't need everyone. What Kevin Kelly has taught us is you just need, I don't know, 1,000 true fans, 1,000 people who care enough that they will get you the next round and the next round and the next round. That means that the idea you create, the product you create, the movement you create isn't for everyone. It's not a mass thing. That's not what this is about. What it's about instead is finding the true believers. It's easy to look at what I've said so far and say, wait a minute, I don't have what it takes to be that kind of leader. So here are two leaders. They don't have a lot in common. They're about the same age, but that's about it. What they did, though, is each in their own way created a different way of navigating your way through technology. So some people would go out and get people to be on one team, and some people would get people to be on the other team. It also informs the decisions you make when you make products or services. You know, this is one of my favorite devices. But what a shame that it's not organized to help authors create movements. What would happen if when you're using your Kindle, you could see the comments and quotes and notes from all the other people reading the same book as you in that moment, or from your book group, or from your friends, or from the circle you want? What would happen if authors or people with ideas could use version 2, which comes out on Monday, and use it to organize people who want to talk about something? Now, there's a million things I could share with you about the mechanics here, but let me just try a couple. The Beatles did not invent teenagers. They merely decided to lead them. That most movements, most leadership that we're doing is about finding a group that's disconnected but already has a yearning, not persuading people to want something they don't have yet. When Diane Hatz worked on the Matrix, her video that spread all across the internet about the way farm animals are treated, she didn't invent the idea of being a vegan. She didn't invent the idea of caring about this issue, but she helped organize people and helped turn it into a movement. Hugo Chavez did not invent the disaffected middle and lower class of Venezuela. He merely led them. Bob Marley did not invent Rastafarians. He just stepped up and said, follow me. Derek Sivers invented CD Baby, which allowed independent musicians to have a place to sell their music without selling out to the man, to have a place to take the mission they already wanted to go to and connect with each other. What all these people have in common is that they are heretics. That heretics look at the status quo and say, this will not stand. I can't abide this status quo. I am willing to stand up and be counted and move things forward. I see what the status quo is. I don't like it. That instead of looking at all the little rules and following each one of them, that instead of being what I call a sheep walker, somebody who's half asleep, following instructions, keeping their head down, fitting in, every once in a while, someone stands up and says, not me. Someone stands up and says, this one's important. We need to organize around it. And not everyone will, but you don't need everyone. You just need a few people who will look at the rules, realize they make no sense, and realize how much they want to be connected. So Tony Hsieh does not run a shoe store. Zappos isn't a shoe store. Zappos is the one, the only, the best there ever was place for people who are into shoes to find each other, to talk about their passion, to connect with people who care more about customer service than making a nickel tomorrow. It can be something as prosaic as shoes and something as complicated as overthrowing a government. It's exactly the same behavior, though. What it requires, as Geraldine Carter has discovered, is to be able to say, I can't do this by myself, but if I can get other people to join my climate ride, then together we can get something that we all want. We're just waiting for someone to lead us. Michelle Kaufman has pioneered new ways of thinking about environmental architecture. She doesn't do it by quietly building one house at a time. She does it by telling a story to people who want to hear it, by connecting a tribe of people who are desperate to be connected to each other. by leading a movement and making change. And around and around and around it goes. So 3 questions I'd offer you. The first one is, who exactly are you upsetting? Because if you're not upsetting anyone, you're not changing the status quo. The second question is, who are you connecting? Because for a lot of people, that's what they're in it for. The connections that are being made one to the other. And the third one is, who are you leading? Because focusing on that part of it, not the mechanics of what you're building, but the who and the leading part is where change comes. So Blake at Tom's Shoes had a very simple idea. What would happen if every time someone bought a pair of these shoes, I gave exactly the same pair to someone who doesn't even own a pair of shoes? This is not the story of how you get shelf space at Neiman Marcus. It's a story of a product that tells a story. And as you walk around with this remarkable pair of shoes and someone says, what are those? You get to tell the story on Blake's behalf, on behalf of the people who got the shoes. And suddenly it's not 1 pair of shoes or 100 pairs of shoes, it's tens of thousands of pairs of shoes. My friend Red Maxwell has spent the last 10 years fighting against juvenile diabetes. Not fighting the organization that's fighting it, fighting with them, leading them, connecting them, challenging the status quo because it's important to him. And the people he surrounds himself with need the connection. They need the leadership. It makes a difference. You don't need permission from people to lead them, but in case you do, here it is. They're waiting, we're waiting for you to show us where to go next. So here's what leaders have in common. The first thing is they challenge the status quo. They challenge what's currently there. The second thing is they build a culture, a secret language, a 7-second handshake, a way of knowing that you're in or out. They have curiosity about the people in the tribe, curiosity about outsiders. They're asking questions. They connect people to one another. Do you know what people want more than anything? They want to be missed. They want to be missed the day they don't show up. They want to be missed when they're gone. And tribe leaders can do that. And it's fascinating because all tribe leaders have charisma, but you don't need charisma to become a leader. Being a leader gives you charisma. And if you look and study the leaders who have succeeded, that's where charisma comes from the leading. And finally, they commit. They commit to the cause, they commit to the tribe, they commit to the people who are there. So I'd like you to do something for me, and I hope you'll think about it before you reject it out of hand. What I want you to do, it only takes 24 hours, is create a movement. Something that matters. Start. Do it. We need it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay. Great. Yeah, tribes. I think, yeah, we will get a PhD on tribes after this. Blondie?
Okay. Yeah, the book took me on a very personal journey. I'm a heretic, a natural heretic. I challenge everything and everyone. And I used to think that there was just something wrong with me. You know, even in my high school days, I would ask questions that are not supposed to be asked. And it spilled over to tertiary institutions, and it spilled over to the work environment, corporate environment, and subsequently now in my latter days of entrepreneurship, I still ask questions and sometimes rub people the wrong way. So this was a very personal one for me, and thank you for that, because you just took me back on a very long journey, and one that I've been questioning, wanting to find out what is wrong with me, because I used to think it's just got to be me. There's no way people do these things that I do, and it felt like a curse, you know. But now it makes a lot of sense, because it makes just a lot of sense on the key attributes of what makes heretics and why heretics exist. Purely to challenge the status quo, because life would be dull and boring if we had people that are sheepwalkers, quiet, sitting in their corner, minding their business, don't ask questions. This is how it's always been done. So I took 8 key things from the book. And the first one to me was, you know, tribes are found anywhere. As long as there are people who share a passion for a specific idea. I found myself reading the book and traveling between a hospital, a guy who is doing, work in Pakistan, trying to, bring down the numbers of diarrhea in children because of poor hygiene conditions. I traveled to restaurateurs who are battling with certain things, and ones that have been designing programs to appeal to a certain tribe by hosting specific exclusive events. I moved to a rock band that started a movement, and people were breaking codes and hugging and kissing and stuff. So it took me on a very long journey. It was a very short read, but that had different applications and spoke about different people and why tribes exist, but touching even on religious tribes, and speaking about, sports. The rock climbers was a classic one for me, because the guy made it possible for people to believe that rock climbing was not a very difficult thing. And secondly, the tribes make it a leader. And it further strengthens the debate that leaders are actually made and not born. And I know that people fight a lot with this thing, and they will say, yeah, but you still need, characteristics that shape you as a leader. But I believe that, for a leader to be like Elon Musk, you must have that following that believes in you so much, and you actually believe that you can change the world and do the unthinkable. And the third one was a point about tribes having a purpose they live for. I don't think that tribes can exist if there's no purpose. Those people are always searching for something. They're looking for each other, but they're looking for this specific thing that binds them together. It's like a glue. So they have it and they stick together. They're their own separate codes. They speak a same language, and they are so exclusive in their making. You'd find people that have a passion, for Gary Vee and the wine library, because they are wine connoisseurs. They love it. Guys that talk about cognac, they would attract similar people because of the same, as I believe, the same tastes in the finer things in life. And then the fourth one for me was the leadership is about deciding to lead, and at times following. Leaders commit and see things through, but tribes make it possible for those people to do that. And the fifth one was heretics are good for business, actually, in a good or bad way. They challenge the system. Sometimes it backfires, but they would have, rattled a few feathers and changed the way people see things. Sheepwalkers will find it very difficult to do that. And one of the things when I say heretics are good for business is the typical story of the guy that used to work for Yahoo, who rewrote the business plan because of the direction the company was taking. And he ended up in a different environment because, yes, it destroyed his career there, but it actually launched him as a business leader in another environment. So sometimes it's good to have those things, whether the repercussions are good or bad. But eventually you challenged something that no one was thinking about. Yahoo went down and the CEOs were fired, but the guy actually got a reward. He became a business leader in a different organization. The sixth point for me was the communication channels that are driven by the tribes is different. You see the blogs, you see the podcast. There's something called a vlog now, which is very popular in YouTube terms. These people will promote the channels if they feel that the world needs to know about it. Just like I'm very passionate about TEDs, I would post it on my WhatsApp status whenever I listen to a TED talk, and I just feel that people should. I'm not mobilizing. I might be mobilizing indirectly, but it's something that appeals to me. It's something that speaks to the changes in the construction industry and the gender changes that have been happening over the years. And this is why I have interest. And I see that when I posted, people start commenting to speak about stats. So I'm not sure if I'm influencer or I'm a tribe leader. Yeah, TED Talks, but I do that all the time. And I just find it that, we share whether we are trying to recruit people, but we just want to get the message out there, especially when it's something that we are so committed to and very passionate about. And the seventh one is the mistake to think that tribes are weak. tribes are sheeps, tribes don't have a voice, tribes must follow, tribe must listen to you because you are Elon Musk and no one can question you because you're the smart guy and everybody knows that. When it's actually reversed, because those people want you as a leader, if they give you that platform and they promote your work, to listen to them and to give them that voice and space to speak. That channel that he speaks about, where he says that it should not be a top-down approach. It actually should be the tribes talking to each other. So once you open up that platform and you get people to talk to each other, your job is not even going to be as difficult, because you find people, especially on Twitter, fighting for Elon Musk when he's not even saying anything. He's just quiet and observing, sitting there in the background, observing the fights and people defending him, others attacking him. So that's what needs to happen. And their attacks are not to vilify the guy and to make him, like a bad person, but it's to interrogate certain things that he says he can do. And then his people step in. His true fans, the 1,000 true fanatics, they step in and they defend him. He doesn't even have to say anything. So that's what I've seen. And I think it makes a lot of sense, because I've always wondered what is that concept all about when you have so many people that are willing to die for you on social media. So it's those 1,000 people, AKA fanatics. So the eighth point for me was that the tribes embrace their leaders and not factories. So the factory era is gone. So now they're following people. If you look at Bill Gates and his following, for Microsoft has a lower following as opposed to Bill Gates, and similar to Tesla, SpaceX, people follow Elon Musk more than they follow the entities he founded, and because they want to hear from him, not the factories. The factories, they can carry on and assemble and do whatever, but they are interested in him as a person. Same applies to Apple. I mean, I used to set my alarm and wait for the announcement of the new device. I know it's going to be the same iPhone, but I want to know what he has done to improve certain things. And I didn't miss any of those presentations because they were so important to me. I'm a fan. I'm a fanatic. I love it. I sleep and breathe Apple. Everything I've done is all about Apple. So I could relate to also that thing, and it felt so real, and I connected with it so much to understand why we do certain things, follow the leaders or not the factory.
Yeah.
The last point,
go for it.
The last point was that the leaders know when to sit back and observe, and allow the tribes to exist in that space, and then step in when it's necessary. And I think that's one of the things that we as leaders battle. You want to be at the front, you want to be seen as the person. You talk a lot about your company, but you don't let the tribe tell you how they feel about what you've brought to the picture. Allow them to be in that space to do the advocating for you, and then step in whenever you feel that it's your time to step in. But I think it's also it's just defining the boundaries. But I think as you have your tribe and you build your tribe, it's very important to know that there is a moment where you have to sit back and allow them to be, and just observe and step in when it's necessary.
Okay.
That's also, that's my analysis.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think that was quite a mouthful. Yeah, it's called the Gospel of Ted. Those ones who have drank the undiluted Kool-Aid of Ted. They call it the Gospel of Ted. But yeah, I mean, quite insightful, Blondie. Thank you so much. I think we'll revisit some of those concepts as well. Let's give others a chance. Chweni, your thoughts? Thank you, Blondie. Ms. Memakas.
Yes, let me get my daughter to leave the room.
Oh, okay.
Back.
Okay. All right. Shama, how are you? Did you manage to read?
Good evening, Dr. Roche. Can you hear me?
Can hear you.
All right. Before I go for it, Angie Benjamin sends her apologies. She couldn't make it tonight.
Okay.
And I am well. So I read half of the book because the ebook that I had only had 80 pages, and exclusive books in Gaborone doesn't have it. It's out of stock, but I want to get it and read it. So the bit that I read, I really enjoyed, and I especially love that it's like headlines and just a paragraph, you know, nothing hectic to read because I get lost in reading. And for me, two things. I think the biggest takeout is that tribes are about influence, and, you know, whether good or bad, it's influence, you know. And the thing that I really liked, and also it was my first time listening to the TED or hearing the TED talk. I really enjoyed it. I'll go back to it. And that tribes aren't for everyone. The same way in entrepreneurship, not everyone is your customer, you know? So I found that really insightful. And I love that true believers have a desire to connect with other believers. It's just coming together in one common goal and willing to die for that person. Even like Blondie just said, you know, how people just completely tear each other up over Elon Musk, and he's not even like Beyonce, you know, when she sneezes, people faint. You know, that's the kind of influence that I think tribes is all about. And just really, I think the third one I'd say just leadership, you know, knowing where you want to take people, where you want to take them, and just really taking them there. You know, so that's the bit that I got out of the half that I read. I know, I think it has 160 pages. I only went as far as 80.
Yeah. 125 actually.
125, yeah. I only had 80, almost there.
Almost there. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Shama.
I'm sorry, before I go, and when about how tribes become movements, and then I immediately thought of the Green Belt movement, Wangari Maathai, you know, and that whole green tree planting thing. And I'm like, that is a tribe, you know, of people around the world that she led. And I really, really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much.
Quite interesting. I mean, the mechanics of building a tribe, it's quite interesting. But yeah, thanks, Shama. Mama Kasa, are you good to go?
I'm good to go. So I enjoyed actually listening to this book. It was an easy read, and it resonated a lot with a lot of the work that I've done in marketing. Because I think even with the company that I'm currently consulting with, MLab, we are struggling with connecting. We've got a lot of people, beneficiaries that we assist, coders, the alumni and startups, but there isn't a community in place. You know, we send communication to them, but we are lacking in terms of communicating with them and connecting deeper with them and getting ambassadors out of them so that they can actually sell the message about what the great work that MLab is doing. So it made me think about the work that I did at Google under the brand and reputation. So what we were doing there is to, instead of marketing that Google is good at this and this is what we do, these are the programs that we have, we actually did the other way around, where we showed our helpfulness by trying to have a community plan. And I was a community manager, partner manager then. So what we did, we ensured that we would connect with the communities. So communities such as Limpopo, for instance, because it's a place that's disconnected, similar to Mpumalanga. Okay, live streamed. Okay, so what we trying to do is, besides just giving the educational components, the skills, trying to assist startups with the programs that we had, but we also wanted to connect deeper with the people. And so the plan was to actually start communities with leaders in mind. So we would get an ambassador who would lead that community. So when we have a launch, we launched a community in Limpopo, for instance, we would have a couple of stakeholders who would actually speak. Maybe others are key policymakers, others are in the business industry, others are your ward councillors. So others are startups, others are in the skills sector and trying to empower people. So we try to form pools of communities that could assist in driving the change and believing in the change and making a difference. And this is our way to challenge the status quo in terms of entrepreneurship, so we can get people to play in their space or take their space and be digitally equipped to form part of the digital economy. And all of this started with our why. What is our why as an entity? And does everyone believe the cause behind this? Does everyone buy into the change that we are trying to drive to enrich people's lives, and they can form part of that movement? So there's even a program that Google had. It's called I'm Remarkable. I was part of it, and else it actually can actually be part of it. But it's an initiative about empowering women and also underrepresented groups like your LGBTQ, all of that. And either in the workplace or even in your different communities. And all of that, what it does is that they train you, they give you all these, that sort of like a blueprint on how to run your own community and assist other people, assist especially women and underrepresented groups, so that they can prosper in terms of entrepreneurship, or even in their skills space, or even in their workplace. So all of these, they required some sort of movement. And this movement was a movement that is seeking change. We are seeking to connect people for a greater purpose. And I saw that none of this can happen, or you cannot say that I am going to run a group in Limpopo, I'm going to run a group in Mpumalanga, without actually being a leader. So you have to be a leader. You have to, in order for you to create a tribe, to form a tribe, you have to have these leadership qualities. And that way you'll be able to create this movement. And for me, I saw that even with the way we were marketing to even with MLab, the way we're marketing the program is that we're not actually looking for fans or the large numbers that people you can impact, but it's actually about going the depth of the commitment. So these are the people on the ground who will actually, when you're long gone, 3 years, 5 years later, they are carrying on with that idea. They're carrying on with the movement, because you were able to get that level of commitment, the depth of commitment. You were able to find an interconnection that a true fan can deliver, in comparison to using maybe influencer marketing, or using these other digital marketing strategies where you're trying to reach as many people based on some algorithm. Here, you are building connections with real people for real change. So I love the whole idea behind the leadership, that leadership is created by movements and change in a community. There's there's something that is said regarding I'll tell you now, the characteristics of a leader. For me, it's even a personal challenge, in that whatever it is that I do, I should be a leader. It starts with self. If anyone wants to listen to you, you have to be the leader. If you want to bring change into your workplace, into your community, even in your home, in order to gather people to start believing in being forming part of even this group that we are part of, the book club, So as I was here, I'd already gotten 2 friends from part of this. Last time we got George, and now there's another friend who's in, and I'm seeing that this is on its own. This is a movement that Dr. Roche is doing. This is this is a tribe on its own. I think even in Tsikwane said that in the beginning. So for the leadership for a leader, the leadership qualities that came out for me is leadership who has a cause that is worth fighting for, and they always challenge the status quo, and you have to stick with it, stick to your guns, and you enable also these guys who are following you, part of your community, to be connected to one another, right? They speak to one another, so it's not leadership that's a handed down process, but there's actually a process where people can be connected with one another. Without you, there's actually something happening. There is impact, there is connection, and you're persistent against all odds. If there's change, there's resistance that's coming, you stick to your guns. That is you being brave, and you work hard, and without also forgetting without what with being work hard, and at the same time being generous about the ideas. So you have to be constant, be knowledgeable about the industry that you are in, whatever, you get to be the thought leader. And but at the same time, there's this humility that comes in. You are bringing light into a spark movement, so the charisma comes in as well. It's as if like it's a bad example, but your charismatic churches, how people are just so bushirid, for instance, and you think, how did this happen? How did it get to this point that people can even form their little churches and their little cell groups, and Bushiro is not even part of it, and people are having conversations? And there's also this other example that I've seen recently with Mac G. I don't know if you know him, but he's a DJ, and he has his podcast on YouTube now is one of the I think it's top, probably top 5 in the world. Yeah, so he's done very great, and now he has these people. They're telling, like I see other startups, they're posting and they're saying we are the chillers. So there's now a community, they're calling themselves chillers just because of what this guy does. And so it's easy to create, and this is because he connects to the ideas, whatever the ideals they hold about life, and he represents that for them, and they just follow through. But if you're a business, because now I'm just focused in terms of business, if you're a business and you're trying to connect, you're trying to have a marketing approach that is long lasting and has impact, full change in people's lives, you do not need to chase the numbers. You need just a few people who believe in you in different industries, in different industries, and these people are the ones that will drive the change that you're looking for. So yeah, that's that.
Awesome. Interesting. I mean, when you bring a practical aspect of it, I was not aware we are building a tribe here, but thanks for the vote of confidence. Thank you, Junie. Malisel.
Evening, Dr. Rush.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. Happy New Year to you.
Thoughts, comments, insights?
It's actually, so I didn't read the book, but it's actually very, very interesting. I think a lot of what was said is like I said, it is enticing, because I've always thought of, I'll give you an example of what was said here. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, one of the hierarchies is the need to be part of something. I think it's love and belonging, friendship, intimacy, family, sense of connection in a way, and a lot towards that. It captures you in such a way where if there is a slight belief in something, you're able to get to a place. And I think Trini just said, like, let's just say with the book club now, is that the reason we come time and time again is that obviously to some extent we are entrepreneurs, and we know we're following someone that is a seasoned entrepreneur and that is able to come up with like, well, all of us come up with different books that will eventually build us up as entrepreneurs and better entrepreneurs and everything else. But it's also, like I said, that the need to be part of a group to almost validate that what this person is saying is what I've always thought, or part of what I thought. I think Blondie also said that she always thought that she's the only one, or that things like that. But I mean, one of the things that I like that was said in the TED Talk as well is that you have to step up to be a leader, right? And in that sense, if you don't believe in yourself, no one else is going to believe in yourself. But if you come up, and I like the old 7 C's, that you come up there and you communicate, you care, you find relevance in a sense in what people are doing, and people will find relevance in what you are moving for and what you're fighting for. So there was a lot said, and I think I'll probably go read the book now or listen to it or something. but I really like the aspect of it touching, especially on this Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because it does pull on a lot of that as well, in hindsight, as I think of it. But one of the things that I actually had a question, maybe Dr. Roche, you can answer it in this, but do you think that movements are only, well, they obviously started by people, but a movement can be more than a person? What I mean by that, let's say, a lot of the time they talk here in the book, they talk about people, but not necessarily that a movement can be like a university, for instance. You know, especially in America, they take so much pride in, for instance, what school they're in, so much so that if you tell someone that I'm in this school, they proudly wear the attire, they follow everything about that university. And that's my question around that, is that can a movement be more than a person, in a sense, in the long run?
Yeah, good question. I think so, man. I mean, Blondie just said that she's a Mac person, you know, and Steve Jobs is long gone, you know, and I'm also a Mac person, and you know, and I think there's a chance that I'll still buy Mac products. But I mean, you look at, for instance, soccer teams. What are you, Chelsea? So you know, you'll support Chelsea even if it's 7 years of no winning anything. You know, and I'm sure you'll support Chelsea even when Abramovich is no longer the owner. You know, so yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if the tribe is strong, the culture is set, and I think for me also, what didn't come out through, but I think it's implied, is a sense of ownership of the tribe. You know, if people believe that they own this, and if you have that sense of ownership of anything, you are likely to look after it. You are likely to contribute towards its well-being and sustenance. You are likely to contribute to it financially, because you believe in it, and it becomes a generational thing. You know, if the tribe is able to bring succession to it, and they're able to bring people who are going to lead the movement, you know, it becomes that type of a belief system that is generational. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's because I think a lot of the time, look, a lot of people are Apple fans. I'm an Apple fan myself, and even though I know that we don't have the best products, but I'm I won't even lie, I'm captured.
It's the story. It's the story.
Exactly. And I mean, it's exactly what I was going to go into now, is being able to be told a story. Again, it may sound weird, but it's almost like propaganda in a way. It's how someone tells you a story, and how you are able to relate to that story and capture that story and carry that story with pride. Because if there's no pride towards that story, usually people won't follow it. You know, I mean, I think of how Hitler. You can imagine, how can you be behind someone that is trying to kill other people? You know, it doesn't make sense. But he was able to make people believe so much so that this tribe that is building, you want to be part of it because you don't want to be against it. Well, first of all, but also the fact that they are better than the Jews, let's say. So a lot of what I got as well is just that being able to tell a story that is very relevant to people, that challenges what other people, I mean, people just, as they always say, people are sheep in a sense, right? And we just need that shepherd or that wolf, for instance, to lead us in that sense. So it's if you come up with a story that is worth telling. I think I've spoken to you once upon a time, Dr. Roche, and you told me about how your story is so important within a business. And within that, I think maybe a lot of the time, maybe people like the lead, or us leaders, or trying to be leaders, don't necessarily believe in our story enough to just constantly push at it. because as you mentioned, Gary V, he also says that you don't start today and then boom, you're tomorrow you've got 40,000 followers or whatever. You start one person at a time, and then from that one person it grows. And I think it was Blondie that said it, or someone said it, that where you start off with one person. Oh, actually it was the TED Talk, that you start up with a person, and if you build that person good enough, he can bring someone else. But the story has to talk to that person so much so that they must resonate to say, you know what, I believe in what this guy's story is or this lady's story is. Let me follow it, and let me pay close attention to it. So I really like what was said. It actually gave me, it was a good insight in that.
No, absolutely. Thanks, Mada. I think it talks to that. It talks to, are you telling stories that resonates? And I think Seth always likes saying that. Are you telling stories that resonates? Is this story resonating with the people? And it won't resonate with everybody. But who was this? The Fugees, where they sing storming my face with his fingers. And I mean, here's this person listening to this artist, and this artist is singing his life. And he feels like you're talking to me. So as you tell this story, there are people who will say, hold on, but this story resonates with me. This is me. You are telling my life story. And the reason why, for instance, I love Apple, and what Apple stands for is to challenge the status quo. And I've always said that the reason why I left corporate is because I just couldn't fit in. I always challenged the status quo. So when the story of Apple came, it's like, this is me. And I'm sure there are others as well. And it resonated, that story resonated with a lot of, and the ability to share, to craft your story and tell it. People buy stories more than we like to believe that people buy all these other things, but ultimately people buy the story. When you say I'm a Mac fan, you are buying the story that Mac, tells. It's not like Mac is the best car in the world. There are other better, safer cars, but you chose the story. This story talks to you. Or the BMW, or the Pirates or Chiefs. You love, the story of love and peace. If they haven't won anything in 10 years, you'll still support them because you buy the story. So that's the movement. You won't even eat if you, there are people who don't even eat if the team loses, because the story, it's them. The story represents them. So, but yeah, thanks a lot, Madi. Quite good insights. Nzigwani? Nzigwani? Okay, Nzigwani is shy. Tulani, have you read the book? Tulani?
Evening, everyone. Evening, Dr. Rush. I couldn't find the copy. I couldn't find the copy. However, I listened to the audio book.
Oh, great.
And what interested me most was that a tribe is no longer a physical tribe where we are all in one place. As he explains it, that technology has improved on how the tribe can be big. We are all a tribe of, say, we look at Facebook, those people are a tribe because of one person. So a tribe now is big. You cannot count the number of people within a tribe. Everyone associate with the one leader, and it becomes a huge tribe that cannot be, quantified to the old tribe where you will have, a particular tribe. He also talks about business as well, factories and things like that, of which makes it interesting how he looks at things. I listened to it in December, so I may not remember everything, but it was interesting how he looks at the tribe, how people started the tribes, and most of the people who are talking in the group here, mentioning how things have been done through the tribes. So yeah.
Great. Thank you. So we have a minute left. So I'm gonna try and see if we can wrap up, unless if there's any other comment, if we can wrap up. I mean, I think for me, I think it's a good book. I love the principle. Sometimes what frustrates me with Seth is there are times where I feel he could go deeper, and he just gives me a paragraph and then he moves on. I'm like, come on, you know. But it's written in a simplistic way. I mean, Seth, if you follow his blog and Akimbo, his podcast, I mean, that's what he does. He doesn't go very deep like what Malcolm Gladwell does. Malcolm Gladwell can go on a detour for an hour on something and then comes back and still continues. Seth gets to the point, it's nuggets. I always say with Seth, it's small, bite-sized nuggets. So this is not my best Seth Godin book. It's a good book though, but it's not my best, but I think it's a good book. Tribes is an important, especially with technology. And I like the fact that he says technology was supposed to homogenize us, but actually what it has done is it has created silos of interests. And I loved that, within technology, WhatsApp groups, you've got all the silos of interests. So you have a WhatsApp group for people who are doing this, a WhatsApp group for people who are doing that, and I found that to be quite interesting. And I think also leadership today is in very short supply. We need more people who are going to stand up and take and challenge a whole lot of things. And the tools to connect are there. Out of 10, I'll give it a 7. That's me, but I think it's a good book. I'm a fan of Seth and I've read most of his material. So I'm able to connect the pieces. So 7 out of 10 for me. What's your rating, Blondie? Is Blondie here? What's your rating, Blondie? Out of 10?
I'll give it an 8 out of 10. There's 2 points here. The good side is that it shaped my view on how marketing has changed and evolved over the years and not sticking to the same principle. And the downside is what you're complaining about, the nuggets. I just wanted to go deep on some of the things and it just left me hanging. I'm just like this, I read a paragraph. I'm like, okay, but just elaborate because you could mean something else and I could be making up a wrong assumption here. So it's a good read because it just, it felt like closure for what I've been battling with, especially on the heretic side. So, but over and above that, I just think it's missing a lot. It felt like a case study thing and it upsets me.
Yeah.
I have completed case study. Yeah.
Yes. That's what I also felt. True. Okay. Makasa, out of 10.
Out of 10, I'm gonna give it a 9.
Oh wow. Nice.
Give it a 9.5.
What? Oh my word. Okay.
Well, it was an easy read. Well, it read like a blog, so it's not your usual typical books. So the fact that it was an easy read, then it resonates with everyone. I know there are reading cultures where you're looking for deeper meaning and things like that. This book can be read even by high schoolers.
True.
And that's why it was easy. And I guess this is a way of trying to create a tribe as well. You want to be able to be reachable and easily understood. So he did it well here for me.
Okay. Wow. 9 out of 9.5. That's a solid. You're just shy of 10. Okay. Shama, out of 10?
For me, I'm with Miss Trini there. Like I really enjoyed it. Like I don't want to struggle with the book. So if I sail through a book, I thoroughly love it. So because I read half of it, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. But I don't think anything will change as I go, as I get my actual copy. But I really enjoyed it. Like it's one of those books that you need to have in your library and you need to keep going back to.
Yeah. Tulani, thanks, Shama. Tulani?
Okay. For me, I'll give it a 7. I also didn't think that you went deep, but it helps us in encouraging us to look at the old ways and embracing new ways of technology and how we need to look at life moving forward. So a 7 is what I will give it.
Okay, great. One last question. I know we've run out of time, but I'm gonna abuse you slightly here. What movement are you guys working on, or what movement have you been thinking about for a while? And maybe this book has helped you to sort of, I know I'm gonna start a movement. I know for me, in the movement that I've always wanted to start is the movement of entrepreneurs, and what we are challenging is the notion that, you know, you need a job to be successful. I think people can create their own jobs. So that's, as to whether I'm succeeding with that, it's something else. But I think for me, I want to sort of have that a tribe of people who are saying, you know what, you don't need a job. You can actually create your own job. So that's my movement. And I think what Seth is also consolidating here is that there's quite a number of things that I need to do to get the movement going. Chweni, what's your movement? The one that, don't tell me about work, the one that you're doing with MLab. I'm talking about the one that you personally want to lead.
I like work, ne? That's pretty like, don't tell me about work. Okay, so my movement is about mental health awareness.
Okay.
And the other one in my community, and that's something that I've kind of like neglected, but I used to host workshops, just getting people aware about how to address mental health issues and challenges. Then the other one, my favorite movement, is about enabling or ending period poverty. And what we do is maternal sanitary projects, and we try and get as many people as possible to form part of the change by donating either money or even for instance, we get people from Department of Health who can talk about menstrual hygiene and things like that to girls in school and boys as well. And yeah, so that's what we do. Those are my two things that I do outside of work. And and the other movement is I created a prayer group when lockdown started, that hard lockdown in 2020. So the group is still there, and I used to be the one sharing content, video, and things like that. But now I see that I'm no longer the leader in that. There are people who have taken an initiative, and now they're sharing when I'm not feeling well, when I'm too busy. But there are people, and there's sharing, there's a community that's going on. So yeah, those are my three things.
Awesome. Okay, great. I hope
Leading
Seth is
people
gonna
to
have... Yeah. Okay, great. No, that's awesome. Blondie, what tribe are you working on, thinking about?
I've got two, and I call them my legacy projects. I'm very much involved in the hydrogen space on a global level now, for powering up cars and producing cheap electricity. And I'm also doing a green building alternative technology that is made for the construction of social housing. When you find a house that's got radon gases, which are number one killers in lung disease creators, and people are not even aware of that. So I'm driving that movement to say, instead of building a foundation the normal way, there's a way. We use recycled plastic molds that prevents the radon gases from seeping into houses without people, because they can't smell it, they can't feel it, but it's a cause of the major lung diseases globally. So that's what I'm doing.
Great. Awesome. It sounds very important.
It is.
Okay. Thanks. Shama, what movement, tribe do you want to start? Are you starting?
Hi, Dr. Roche. What kind of question is this?
I'm asking.
For me, this is interesting, actually. I think for me, I want to lead a movement of excellence, just showing up fully first for myself. I work with a lot of young people, so I'm teaching them to just show up for themselves fully and doing everything in excellence, and not like doing half jobs and all of that. And I think for me, it's a big challenge for me, because I want to practice what I preach. Before, I always say to them that everything that I tell you, I have to be one step ahead of you. And I can only do that by showing up fully and doing things excellently and well while I'm at it. So that is my movement. I didn't know it was a thing, but that's my thing.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Tulani, thank you, Shama. Tulani, what's your tribe that you are starting? Or always wanted to start?
Interesting how you put it, Doc. As people are talking, the one thing that is that I feel passionate about is dispute resolution. So you find that families break because of disputes. Businesses, they break because of misunderstanding between two people. And the cost of that, you can't even quantify it or put monetary value on it. So for me, dispute resolution is a trap I need to work on and start and move forward with.
Okay. Awesome. Sounds very interesting. Thanks. It sounds very interesting. I would have never thought of that, but yeah. Malisela, I know I didn't ask you how you'd read the book because you said you didn't read it, but what
Yes.
tribe would you want to start?
I think first of all, I want to say I like what Shama was saying with the excellence, because I know it really resonates. Excellence is a lot.
I think I know where this is coming from.
And I think as well as we've been hearing quite a lot throughout the last 2 years, is it's easy to be excellent, but people, I mean, it's easy to be more excellent than the people around us, because hey, there's no excellence around. So I really like what you're saying there. But for me as well, I think for me, it's basically driving excellence with yourself. You know what I mean? Being able to manage yourself, being able to understand that what I do now, how is it going to affect my future? It's something that, I mean, within my own business, that's what we're driving for, is that understand who you are or understand what you're doing, how you spend your money or how you spend your time, because it will affect. People will always say that, but I only have 24 hours a day. Where am I going to use? I mean, what am I going to do with the, well, I don't have time. But being able to understand that what you're doing now is affecting your time in some other way. So it's basically what Shama was saying, and I'm just stealing the word of excellence, but being excellent within with managing yourself and understanding what you do now, how is it going to affect your future?
Okay, great. Tebogo, I know you said you haven't read the book and you just jumped in towards the end. We're almost closing. What tribe are you starting? Or what tribe do you want to start? And Happy New Year.
Thank you. I think I'm a big fan of tribes, and I discovered these during COVID. And I think last year I worked with a lot of tribes in many things, but I also realized I'm very passionate about SMMEs working together. So I would say collaboration at peer level. It's been a key thing that has actually driven what I do and made me reach the top. Actually, I was telling somebody that I've surprised myself that I exceed my own expectations when I work with other people, that like in a peer collaboration point of view. So I think my whole thing is that collaborate. If it doesn't work, peacefully move along. But I want to promote that whole collaborating at the executive level, instead of working alone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Masepo, what tribe do you want to start? And Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Happy.
Yes.
Okay. So I think, I don't know, women empowerment, especially young women, legacy building. There's a tribe that I had started a couple of years ago for young women, and we called it Zitande, because we had just realized that, I think young women don't love themselves enough to determine what they want, and not go with what people say that they are. So a mentorship of young women is a thing for me. I could say I don't have a proper word for it. but it's a big deal for me, and I think I'd like to go back to proper mentorship of young women in ensuring that we create the young women that we deserve to see on the streets, and stop complaining about the ones that we see on our socials.
Yeah. Okay, great. Sounds good. Colleagues, thank you so much. I've taken 15 minutes of your time, but thanks. I think it was worth it. Tribes, I think it was a good book on the mechanics of how tribes work. And I'm still waiting for Brajabu Stone to let me know. As soon as he's got his books, we'll see if we can interview him. We'll set up a date. I'll try and get the books to you. I'll let you know how much it is, and I'll try and get it to you as soon as possible. And we'll set up a date with him after you have had enough time to read his book. It's also very thin. I don't have it with me. It's similar to Tribes. It's also very thin, but he has agreed to that interview. We just need to obviously get the book and read. And next month, Blondie is hosting McLean.
Dr. McLean Tabanda.
Yes. Yes. Kind of what's the book? Footprints.
Footprints. It's all about the things that entrepreneurs need to know about intellectual property.
Ah, okay. So you are hosting us the next session. I'll send an email as to when exactly, but usually it's the last week of, if we can be last week of February, so that we have enough time to read the book. That would be great. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, and apologies for the time.
Thank you.
And all the best. To see you next time.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Doc.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.